Hello, I'm Michel Haesendonckx, part of the Global Solution Management team at SAP, responsible for the area of management accounting. As mentioned in other videos on SAP S/4HANA Finance, the starting point of important innovations is the end-to-end finance process. In this video, we'll focus on the harmonization of allocations within S/4HANA, also referred to as Universal Allocation, impacting both the area of financial as well as especially managerial accounting aspects. As we shall learn, also the way in which top-down distribution from margin analysis perspective is performed has undergone some important changes with the growing capabilities made available through this universal allocation approach. From a planning and budgeting perspective, a first step towards a single allocation model and executions framework was launched with the SAP focusing on cost center planning. With the S/4HANA 1909 release, first steps to apply a single allocation model for actuals were introduced as well, allowing a much wider adoption of the Universal Allocation framework. This functionality is now being further extended with the SAP S/4HANA 2020 release. Before diving into the details and capabilities, let's pause for a moment to focus on the motivation of universal allocations in S/4HANA and the challenges it solves. The first challenge for organizations is typically the common understanding of their overall allocation process. Historically, this is based on the fact that in classic ERP environments, different allocation setups are required for different purposes. Not only different for actuals as for plan figures, but also different approaches for overhead allocations versus allocations related to margin analysis, product costing, general ledger-based allocations, and so on. But also functional needs and decisions required different setups. If you need different views for the operational follow-up of areas of responsibility, as for company-wide business steering, for instance. As a result of these complex allocations, analysts but also cost center owners struggle to understand how amounts flow across the chain of cycles. It's challenging to get a full traceability and clear understanding on how specific costs are allocated to their specific area of responsibility. As a consequence, there's the necessity for a state-of-the-art visualization for both the allocation models as well as the results after execution. In addition to the overall need for model transparency and result traceability, today's organizations need the ability to simulate. How would the result look like in case we merge two profit centers? Organizations want to understand and identify possible financial effects of changed allocation rules on their financial results. With the universal allocation, the overall aim is to simplify allocations by combining various capabilities under one umbrella, providing a single architecture for financial and managerial allocations like cost center allocations, profit center allocations, and now also top-down distribution. A combined approach for actual and plan, including simulation capabilities, and including predictive data as well. Executing these commonly structured universal allocations is to include all required reporting currencies, providing full traceability of the value flow. While many use allocations related use cases are covered with the S/4HANA 2020 release, the Universal Allocation is an ongoing development that will take several releases until it is fully completed. Therefore, former allocation transactions are still available and can be used in case the current scope of the Universal Allocation does not support your specific use case. From this perspective, an important note to make is that the Universal Allocation is not designed for activity allocations nor different types of settlements, like for WBS elements, for instance. Now, understanding the purpose and benefit of the Universal Allocation, how does this materialize in the S/4HANA environment? As illustrated, a single Fiori app has been developed to centrally manage all allocations. For the different allocation types, like cost center allocations and profit center allocations, for the different posting types, assessments as well as distributions and top-down distribution as well, and for different data sets, so no limited to plan data as was the case in the past. While currently cycles are defined with respect to a ledger and a single company code, cross-company allocations without markups are already planned for the next release in 2021. This harmonized modeling leads the way to an overall simplification of the process. This is further enhanced by adding features like the upload of sender values, guided procedures, and built-in validations. The purpose of the universal allocation is not to support more complex allocation types, like advanced ABC modeling and so on. For these highly complex allocation modeling requirements, mainly using the information outside of an S/4HANA environment, SAP Profitability and Performance Management might be an interesting solution to consider. Having touched on the modeling step, let's now have a brief look at what is meant by the transparency upon execution of the modeling allocation logic. Like the harmonization of the modeling, also the analysis of the results of the allocation is harmonized. The SAP S/4HANA 2020 release provides analysis over the complete allocation run and test runs through 3 different views. A first one showing the results by run, listing completed run jobs and statuses, as well as a direct drill down to detailed run reporting. A second view by cycle, providing a view of the different cycles run statuses for selected fiscal periods. And finally, the so-called run report, which provides details of senders, receivers, journal entries, and messages, including the so-called network graph visualization of allocation interactions between senders and receivers. This graphical visualization is also applied in the allocation flow theory app, in order to understand the cost structure of your specific area of responsibility. For instance, a cost center in this example in detail. Who is allocating which cost to my cost center? Which cost elements are used? And how does the cost flow look like? Where are the costs originally coming from? These types of questions can easily be answered making use of the allocation flow theory app. While the example just shown focuses on cost center analysis, the universal allocation also adds value in the area of margin analysis, the ability to analyze your profitability fully integrated in the universal journal. In margin analysis, sales revenues, sales deductions, and cost of goods manufactured are generally posted and analyzed at customer or product level. However, many business transactions, such as freight invoices, insurance expenses, or advertising, cannot easily be assigned to such a detailed level. Consequently, these need to be posted at a summarized level, such as the customer group or sales organization, for instance. Top-down distribution lets you distribute the aggregated transaction data to more detailed levels based on reference information, such as transaction data from the previous period or plan data. The universal allocation then enables the simplification and acceleration of top-down distribution. In this particular example, one of the available predefined top-down distribution templates, distributing by customer, is applied. Before finishing off, let's take a step back and look at universal allocation from an architecture context. It is thanks to the Universal Journal combining all relevant information in a single place that on top of this harmonized data set, we can also harmonize overall allocation processes. The fact that beyond providing the single financial truth, the Universal Journal is also the architectural basis driving process efficiency. On top, the universal allocation also illustrates very nicely the increasing reuse of design elements within S/4HANA. Let's take an example. Global hierarchies unify the way different hierarchies are built and maintained within S4. Now the same application is used to model structures according to which allocations are set up. The grouping of allocation cycles is done with the Global Hierarchy app. With this, we hope this introduction to the universal allocation capability delivered with S/4HANA 2020 not only clarifies its benefits for the specific allocation-related use case, but also has increased your understanding of how the Universal Journal architecture drives the next level of process harmonization and efficiency. I'd like to finish off by thanking you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to discussing this topic with you in more detail.